Test, test. Yeah, perfect. Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. Very warm welcome. If you like, you can move further to the front. You absolutely don't have to, obviously, but if you feel like it, that's an option. Some debate going on about that. Yay. Wonderful. Okay. I'm very, very happy to have Klaus sitting here with me. I don't think I need to introduce why this topic is important. I think it's quite obvious at the moment. And we've also agreed that it's a bit awkward if I introduce him like we do in sort of my more hierarchical settings. So I'm just here to sort of say I'm really happy that we're here, and I will let Klaus introduce himself. And then we will have about like 30 minutes where I ask some questions, and then there's around 15 minutes where you can ask questions. And just because, yeah, sometimes it can be a male-dominated space. If you don't identify as a man and you want to ask questions, you can raise your hand with 2 fingers, and then I would prioritize that in the Q&A. But yeah, without further ado, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, Irina, thank you very much for this introduction, and thank you for inviting me here in this incredible event. I'm so happy to be here and to be part of it, actually. Yeah, I'm Klaus. I'm the author of this book about the European Union. That's probably the reason why, yeah, I'm getting invited to speak about European Union. The title of this book is The European Union, History of an Imperialist Project. Yeah, I'm active. I'm a member of the Left Party politically. I'm politically active since my youth, I would say. My first demonstration was against the second Iraq War, the Gulf War, 1991. So, yeah, founding member of the Left Party, founding member of a network in the Left Party, Marx 21. Yeah, and here in Berlin, active in the wedding group.
Perfect. So I would like to know how you came to write this book. If you just want to sort of give us a brief introduction, how that came up, and what were sort of like your guiding thoughts when you wrote this book.
Yeah. Yeah, the book was published not a long time ago, in these days, in this year, let's say. But the project goes back 10 years ago. It was 2014. There were European elections. And there was a big debate inside the Left Party how to relate to the European Union. In 2014, 10 years ago, there was a debate on the party congress, a very hard debate between the wings, and the question was, should we or can we say that the European Union is neoliberalist, is militaristic, and is an undemocratic project. So there were especially some leading figures of the left. They said we should not say this because the European Union is a left project that we have to support. And especially, for example, Gregor Gysi, that was a quote of this on this Congress. And for us, it was very problematic, this attitude toward European Union. It was the time of the memorandums against Greece. And there was a big criticism on European Union, and this position, at least of the leading members of the Left Party, led to the situation that the only force that criticized European Union was the right wing. That then, in this time, AFD was founded, and I want to remember that AFD was not initially founded as a racist, Islamophobic party, but as an anti-EU, anti-European Union party. And I still remember they had placards like the German pay, the banks profit, and the Greeks suffer. That was the slogan. So the first successes of the fascists were in these times with their critics, and we thought that it was necessary to have a debate on the character of the European Union. So, and we wrote in a collective writing process this book, which gives an overview on the history of the European Union, and from the resistance, about the resistance against the European project. But the aim was to publish it 5 years later, and as it is usually in the public sector of publishing, you never get your project on time. and we wanted to publish it to the next European election. We didn't get it, so we needed more time, and when we finished the book, it was before the attack on Ukraine, before the start of the war. So this is quite important. In these times when we discussed and wrote, the main focus or the main critics of the European Union was against its capitalistic character. Yeah, there were the memorandums against Greece, the neoliberal politics, and so on. Later then it became clear that the European Union is also undemocratic, and with the so-called refugee crisis it became clear that the European Union don't support any human rights. If you see how many people are dying in the Mediterranean Sea, it became quite clear, and it also the left party changed their attitude in these points, but in the militaristic view there were still some problems. So we had a discussion about the title, and we chose the title History of an Imperialistic Project, because it's more than capitalistic, it's more than neoliberal. It's a project of imperialism, yeah. So, yeah. And all these militaristic tendencies that we saw the last years, they were already visible in this time, but after the start of the war in Ukraine, it became much more intense, much more massive. The militarization. Chancellor Scholz declared the turning point, the Zeitenwende, and what we see since then is a massive militarization of the society, of the politics, and yeah, that was visible, but it became even more important now. And that's why I think it's still important, and we have still the discussion in the left party. That's why I'm talking about that, because I think it's still a very, very important discussion.
Thanks. Which of course makes me ask whether you could flesh out why you would say that it is an imperialist project.
Yeah. If you look at the self-description of the European Union, you can do it. You can see it on the website. There is an official website on the history of the European Union written by officials of the European Union. Then you read, European Union is about promoting peace, promoting European values and the well-being of its citizens. It's about freedom of movement, it's security, the rule of law in an area without internal borders. It's about fighting against social injustice. You read about fighting against discrimination. It's very important. You read that the aim of European Union is promoting solidarity between European Union member states, promoting social justice, social protection, strengthen the, what they call social cohesion. That means, social partnership. So it sounds very nice if you look at it. And I think it's quite the reason why also some people on the left think there must be something true, because it's true that we don't have wars inside the European Union anymore, and it's a progress that there is no war between Germany and France. But if you look at the other side and at the reality of the European Unions look much different. You have a history of attacking workers' rights, a history of privatization. You have the war on refugees and human rights. You have even inside the European Union no solidarity between member states, but more relations, interstate relations of dependence and oppression, mainly between the center and the South and Eastern European countries. You have a colonialist foreign trade policy, I would call it like this, that increases the poverty in the global South. And of course the massive militarization that we see just right now. Just to give some points about that, what it means with attacking workers' rights. European Union is promoting austerity policy. We saw it with the South European countries, especially with Greece. In Greece, the minimum wage was reduced by almost 50%. Social cuts, massive poverty, and this is a pattern that was used before in Eastern Europe during the transition. It was then used here, and even in these times, they introduced some measurements in times of crisis. They will act like this. I mean, there are European guidelines that say if the loan costs are too high, the member states are forced to attack the workers' rights, to reduce the loan costs. These directives are there. There was a big conflict about the Bolkestein directive. It was the so-called services directive, where European Union tried to totally destroy any system of minimum wages and collective bargaining systems in Europe. They didn't succeed with this, but it was a try, the Bolkestein directive. Or look at the rulings of the European Court of Justice. They had several rulings where they said the freedom of capital is more important than, for example, the right to strike. That's the character of European Union. European Union is a driving force behind privatization, liberalization, and the so-called reform of labor market. That means the more liberalization, the destroying of protection rights against firing, for example, dismissal, and so on. So that's the reality. If you look at I don't know if I have to say much about the refugee or the migration policy of the European Union. I mean, what we what we see here is a really war against refugees. They build up army-like structures at the external borders of the European Union. They make agreements with dictatorships like in Libya or Turkey in order to get rid of refugees. They really are destroying the right of asylum. That's what they do, nothing else. They officially destroy the right of asylum. That's the politics of European Union. There are pushbacks. The inhuman conditions in the refugee camps, the criminalization of sea rescue. I mean, the list is so big that nobody can really say that the European Union has something to do with human rights at the moment. If you look at for one chapter here in this book is about the foreign trade policy. I think it's very important to look at this. To look at the unequal trade agreements, for example. Trade agreements that allow European Union companies to sell their products in the global south, while these countries can't sell their products here. All these trade agreements, all these trade policies lead to a situation where the global south mainly exports raw materials into the European Union. European Union mainly exports industrial goods. From the trade relations, it's similar to what we saw in the 19th century with colonialism. If you look at the agricultural and fishery policy of European Union, you will see how they destroy the basics of living in the global south, how they take all the fish, how they destroy agriculture there with their cheap products, which are supported, the exports are supported by the European Union in order to conquer the markets. That's the aim. That's the aim. Yeah. I don't speak about climate policy, but militarization is very important because what we see, not only since 2022, since the start of Ukrainian war, which actually started earlier, but that's another story. In 2017, there was a European Defense founded. In 2017 as well, a permanent structured cooperation, short PESCO, was introduced. The aim of these programs are to raise the expenditure for militarization, to finance military engagement, as they call it, to build up a European defense industry. So that's a kind of problem still, because they think it's very uncoordinated and we should invest the resources more, let's say, better in a way that outflow is better. But at the end, it's a massive militarization. And the main point now is the increasing of the defense spending since 2022, especially after Ukraine. The spendings in military go really up. Yeah, and It's very important also to say an increased integration of European Union and NATO. So there is a debate also on the left that, yeah, you know, NATO, this is militaristic, this is imperialist, but European Union, this is more economic, this is not militaristic. No, since the beginning of the European integration, European community at the beginning and then later European Union was also a kind of pact, a kind of coalition on the military level. And this cooperation goes hand in hand with NATO. So it's very important to see that NATO enlargement was always followed by European Union enlargement, or both goes together. And this is very important also if you look at Ukraine. The conflict is not understandable without the prehistory of European Union enlargement and also NATO enlargement. Yeah, why all these bad things are happening? And that was your question, because it's not a result of bad politicians or of wrong decisions, whatever. It's a result of a system of imperialism. And as we understand imperialism, it's a global system. And we understand imperialism in a Marxist way. Marx first developed the fundamentals of understanding imperialism, in my opinion, especially in his famous book, Das Kapital. He wrote about centralization and concentration of capital. These things are fundamental to understand what's happened here. These arguments, I cannot bring all the arguments, but I can please you to read Marx and to read also Bukharin, who later developed a theory to understand modern imperialism. And it's very important that imperialism is not a product of politics, but of an economic system of competition. Bukharin was an economic in the Soviet Union. He was a revolutionary. First he supported Stalin, later he criticized him. He was killed by Stalin, but he was very, very famous about imperialist theory. Many on the left have heard about him, but never read him, and it's so incredible and it's so important to read what he wrote about imperialism, and I think it's very important. In short, what he said is that he concentrated in his argument about the economic policies of imperialism, and very in the center are the tariffs. Yeah, and tariffs and economic protection was something that developed in the late 19th century and then in the early 20th century. And what we see now is an economic war between China, United States, and also European Union. You've heard about the tariffs in car industry. So the basic argument is of Bukharin is the bigger an internal market, the more advantage take the companies of these markets. That's the basic argument. I can't go into deep now, but it's important to understand that in Europe there were no big internal markets. Europe was divided a long time in different nation states, and the capitalist companies needed a big internal market, and that was the reason why they tried to build up this internal market even at the beginning of the 20th century. It was not successful. It was then tried out to do it military, but the idea behind the ideas of First and Second World War was similar, to build a unified internal market. If you look at the quotes, we have a lot of quotes here about the politicians before the Second World War. They sound like today. We need European Union. We need a unification of Europe. Yeah, it's good for all, and so on. So it's very similar, and the idea to unify Europe is older than after 1945, and it's important to see this project as part of a global system of competition. That was the main idea of Bukharin, that imperialism is the capitalist competition on world scale. That's his idea, and for that, yeah, you need a bloc, and that's what European Union is.
Time is running.
Yeah.
I want to ask one last question though before we open to the whole room, and you've got like no time to answer basically. What are the alternatives? I think, yeah, it's an important question. So what are the alternatives to the imperialist EU project, and what stance should we take with regards to that project?
Yeah. So I would say on the broader left there are mainly two answers what we should do. I mean, the critics are obviously. The one idea is to have a democratization of European Union, to strengthen the European Union and to democratize the structure of European Union. This is mainly an argument by Jürgen Habermas, the philosopher, and he wrote a lot of articles how reformed European Union should look like, could look like, that it is more democratic. So in their view, or Habermas, for example, or others on this side of the left, they think that all these problems come from the power of the nation states. The power of the nation states are too big, and that's the reason why we need more European integration and more democratization. Yeah, it's a problem. First of all, I think it's not realistic if you look at the actually structure of European Union. Who is able to make this democratization of European Union? The nation states who have the power in the European Union, they don't have any interest in that. The only force that have interest are the majority of the people. But when they take over, like the workers, they will not end in the framework of European Union. They will go beyond. So I don't think that it is a realistic suggestion. By the way, Yanis Varoufakis tried to do that. He ended up in saying it's not possible. So there were a lot of tryouts by the left to do this. Not successful. The other suggestion is to go back to the nation state. This is also an opinion in the broader left. Wolfgang Streeck, who was long time a very important social scientist here in Germany, the leader of an institute, very important, and social member of SPD, Social Democracy. Now he supported Sarah Wagenknecht. So he said that it's more democratic to have nation states because, you know, democracy works on on a smaller level and a bigger level, like European Union, this never can work out. It's also a problem, this position. I don't go into deep, but if you look at most nation states in the world are not democratic. It's, and also these ideas are not helpful to fight against nationalism, because what we also have is nationalism, and this is a problem for unified workers' movement and for transnational solidarity, so this position is also problematic. What we what we recommend or we suggest is an anti-capitalist perspective, an internationalist perspective. Of course, we are not we are against nation states as well, but we are also against the European Union. Anti-capitalist movements took place in the European Union. There's a lot of resistance against European Union as such. There were referendums about that, but also, for example, campaigns against the Bolkestein Directive on European level. There are movements on local level. We have here in Berlin, we had a movement or a campaign against the privatization of public transport, the suburban train, S-Bahn. It's directly, the privatization of S-Bahn is directly following the European Union directive on restructuring the railway sector. So these are the alternatives, and not nationalism, and also not European nationalism, because the promoting, like Habermas is doing, is also connected with a new type of nationalism, in my view, the European. We are Europeans. That's also what they write, yes. We are kind of connected by culture or something, and they then say, yeah, that's... it's also, in my view, reactionary, so the perspective should be internationalistic. Yeah.
Thank you. I want to open to all of you, and if you have questions, as I said, raise your hand, and we might just collect a few questions, and then you can do a closing statement, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can also start out, but I've already asked for questions. So. Okay, I'm going to start with one, just so you can think. So you've been speaking about the war in Ukraine, and you might know what's coming. What about the EU? And now we've also had a ruling from the court about genocide and the situation in Palestine, and whether you want to comment on that. That would be my question. I want to give it back to you again if you have questions. Or even clarificatory, something like I didn't understand at all what you're talking about, that's perfectly valid as well. Or if you want to comment because you disagree, it's also perfectly valid. You can either come here and ask your questions, or we can give you the mic if you feel it's not really comfortable to walk up here. What's your preference? Shall we bring a mic, or do you want to?
No, if the people asking questions could stand here, unless you want to do directly in the camera.
Thank you so much. As a white German, being, taught in school that the European Union is such a great, peaceful project, I had a lot of unlearning to do. So great that you wrote the book, because when I did that unlearning, there wasn't so much information available in libraries, in German actually. So I did that learning in the Global South. When you said democratization, I actually didn't quite understand what you meant, because in the end the European Parliament is there, it's voted, so people are elected sitting in the Parliament. So maybe you could elaborate what you mean by democratization. And I was wondering, instead of going into kind of wanting to demolish the project of European Union, can it be kind of like being held more accountable through, for example, courts and justice, if they don't obey to the rules that they themselves have been given themselves?
Yeah, so the first question was about genocide and things that happen now. It's quite interesting. I think it was yesterday or today that the International Court of Justice announced was heißt Haftbefehl? What? Arrest warrant against Netanyahu and Gallant, the Israeli Prime Minister and ex-defense minister, because of war crimes. And the German government has difficulties to answer the question if they would accept this or do this if Netanyahu would come here. It's very interesting because Germany always was a defender of the International Court of Justice, as long as this International Court of Justice was doing what they wanted. You remember the International Court of Justice announced arrest warrant against Putin. They were the best friends and they said, yeah, that's very democratic and so on. And now they don't accept this decision somehow. It shows this argument of a world divided in different imperialistic blocks. And in this situation, there is, no one better. This argument that there are European values defended. It's more and more people don't believe that, I would say, if they see the reality, how Germany as one of the biggest arm deliverer is actively supporting the war on Gaza and the genocide politics of the Israeli state. So, I mean, I wouldn't say they do it because they are bad people or they are racist. They are racist, I think, but that's not the reason. The reason is it's a fight of a global fight of influence, and it's very clear that the Middle East is a place where the oil is, and to have to support Israel helps them to maintain the dominance over the Middle East. It was and it is a tool to fight the Arab movements for self-determination. And European Union is still quite weak in compare to United States, so they are completely dependent. There are discussions now that the European Union should increase their military expenditure to be more independent. It's a big debate now in the European Union to be an independent actor, they call it like this. An independent strategic actor. And until now, they still depend on US imperialism, I would say, and this is also the problem of the war in Ukraine, I would say. There are many capitalists in Germany, they are not happy with the sanctions, with the increased gas prices and so on, but they have to accept this situation because, yeah, that's how the imperialist chain is structured in the world, in my view. Yeah. What else? Yeah, the other question was about the parliament and the democratization. And it's very, very important to understand that the European Union is not a democracy. It's also not a nation state. Its structure is completely different to a nation state. It's more a federation of independent nation states than a supranational state, I would say. If you look at the structure, yeah, there is a parliament. This is one of the European institutions. There are 3 European institutions: the Parliament, then the European Commission, and the Council of Europe. And the power is in the Council of Europe. The Council of Europe decides everything. European Parliament has no right for decision. In Germany, for example, the Parliament decides. The governments only govern because they have the majority in the Parliament. European Parliament has no right to decide. Also, the Commission has no right to decide. The Commission is always described as the European government also. They are powerful, I would say, because they don't have power, but they are networking. They govern by introducing the interests of the big companies, actually. There are a lot of committees by the European Commission where people from the economy, people from companies are sitting in these committees, giving their suggestion, and the European Commission takes over these suggestions, is going then to the Council of Europe, and the Council of Europe is deciding in this way because they think if the representatives of the companies say this is good for us all. That's how European Union is function. What is the role of the Parliament? They make suggestions. They can declare their opinions, but they don't have any right to decide. And yeah, this is a long criticism, and part of the idea to democratization of European Union is to change the structure of European Union into a kind of supranational state where you have an elected government. The European Commission is not elected, by the way. It's built in bureaucratic terms. There is no election. Did you ever elect a member of the European Commission? I guess no. Yeah, and they are also not elected by the Parliament, by the way. No need to say. So the basic idea is to democratization of the whole structure, because you need a change of the whole structure of European Union. But then you have to reduce the power of the nation state. You have to convince the leaders of the nation states that they should give up their power and give the power to a European level. And in my view, they will not gonna do it. They will not do it because they have no reason to do that. And even imagine there would be a revolution in any country of European Union, and they smash the nation state, and on this basic, a new nation state is created, like, I don't know, Germany in the 19th century. I don't think it will be something better. Because, yeah, if you then have a supranational European Union, you will also have a European army. That's actually what they want to build. And this is not a progress. I don't think that is a progress to have a European army instead of national armies. That you have a European repressive system, like police, like judges, I don't know. We want real democracy, and real democracy, in my view, starts at the very local level and in the factories, in the economy, because it's the economy, it's the power of big companies that we have to challenge, and for that it's not enough to think about the substructure of the political sphere. Yeah.
Thank you. I think I've heard like an anti-capitalist ending here, which I think is a beautiful end. So yeah, give a warm hand of applause.
Thank you.
Yeah.